to the Gulf Coast. Welcome to the Gulf Coast. Welcome to the Gulf Coast.
Maybe more like 5 or 6 years ago, but I ran it. It was one old man who was from New Orleans, and I was playing at like a free market around Christmas time. And this guy, he was like, I want to go to Fat City and everything, so I had to look at what Fat City was. And he just started naming all these old places they used to have. And I asked him about, I'm about to call it the station. The warehouse, you know the warehouse?
Yes.
All right, so the warehouse is legendary. I'd been knowing about that one, and he was telling me about how he would go and like steal their flyers, and he still has some of them. So fast forward around like springtime that same year, I'm playing at a place called Dawn's in the Lake in Mandeville, literally on the lake. So you could walk out of the bar and really just sitting on a patio and across the lake and, check out the water. Well, this other old man comes in and he's like, yeah, man, you sound good. And I mean, I'm short, so he's short. He's shorter than me. I'm talking with him. And then it's like, I said, who you played with? He's like, I played horn. He starts naming all these bands and everything. I said, you ever heard of Fat City? He goes, oh, yeah, I heard of Fat City. But they didn't have crap on me. Like, he just shut it. Like, where other people were talking Fat City up. This old man has some stuff to say. I got some education from him. I couldn't tell you his name.
Right.
But he had some
old folks stand on business.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, for the podcast, just try to enunciate into the mics as best as you can,
cool.
So it's always picking
I'm
up.
too far back for you.
Yeah, but it's all right. It's all right to rock every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's again, I'm really glad to have somebody from the greater New Orleans area on the podcast, and just from Louisiana in general. Mm-hmm. And yeah, if there's any other old story anecdotes, feel free to send them.
I got them for days. And I guess I'd be more the greater Baton Rouge area, but playing with a whole bunch of different bands that I would be with. Yeah, I got some stories that I heard coming out of Lafayette, and other stories that I've heard from Morgan City because my family played music. I guess you should say that.
Yeah.
My dad's dad did it for a living, so I grew up hearing the stories of them being on the road, and I had a lot of influence about the experiences that I wanted to have.
Yeah.
That's when I was so excited to drive out here just to come to Mobile because everybody said that you would travel, and they mentioned Mobile being one of those spots where you go.
So you can kind of put that on the bucket list.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Cool. Baton Rouge, what's the future for the Tigers like?
Oh, everybody's very, very excited that we got rid of Homeboy, and everybody's riding the train.
Man, I'm glad you said that. I just haven't heard a good Homeboy in a minute.
The Lane train it's riding, bro. It's full of coal.
But do you think that people kind of get all antsy over some nonsense, in the typical Louisiana fashion, like, oh, yeah?
It depends. So if you ask anybody around Baton Rouge, somebody might get real defensive. Be like, well, we're paying them enough. He better win. If you're making the money, they want to win. But on another hand, it's just the faith of the Tigers, a whole different thing. The Tigers, this is a Baton Rouge, and I don't know if Mobile or maybe Birmingham would be more reflective of this. If LSU wins or not, directly affects the Baton Rouge economy, including live music.
And public safety, too, right?
Public safety, that's definitely a one. But even if the Tigers do win, I think that can also affect public safety.
Yeah, if they win by too much, it might get too chaotic.
Yeah, it gets very chaotic, and it also depends on who we're playing.
Right.
So we used to play at there's a hotel, so I don't know if you know this, but if you're a big fan of the NFL, everyone knows they never keep the team in the city. So they usually go to some suburb or whatnot. So in between... You're from New Orleans, so Gonzales, Louisiana.
Right.
Although anybody who's paying attention doesn't know where we're talking about. New Orleans, Gonzales is about 30 minutes outside of Baton Rouge. I guess maybe like an hour from Baton Rouge, from New Orleans. It's right smack in the middle of the cities. So that's where the team would actually go stay. But the bands they keep in the city. LSU was playing, I want to say Texas A&M, some years ago. And we were playing at a hotel in Baton Rouge where they were keeping the band. And they also had this couple with their anniversary, and we were playing in the hotel bar. And they're decked out in LSU, hanging out with us. And
ain't even trying to hide it.
Yeah, well, one of the dads, from Texas A&M, comes in the bar, looks at the couple. I don't even see this. I'm turning around talking to the drummer for this. Like a 30-second. I always miss the good stuff. Like, it's just the way the story goes. Like, something crazy happens on a gig. I happen to be looking somewhere else. Yeah. But this guy comes in, orders a drink at the bar, turns around. He's in Texas A&M, and he just throws the drink on the woman. So whenever I say that it gets tense, it's a very smart move for them. But it also will affect. You'll have places that will have parking lot parties. So a lot of bands, if you're an early on band, or if you're a very well established band, a corporation might rent out a whole parking lot for tailgating.
Yeah.
And hire you and your group to come play for that, or then they'll push stuff further back in the evening if it's a late game.
Yeah.
It very much reflects everything else. And growing up in that culture, I never realized. So they let me play electric bass and marching band, which was pretty fun. I'd be on the sidelines, but they let me do so. Every time we did like Hey Baby, I was playing the actual like Hey Baby bass line that went right
Oh
there.
man.
So that was pretty fun whenever I was in high school.
Right.
But also got conditioned to relate live music with rowdy crowds. And I remember because I would bus at a restaurant and in high school. And then getting off, and there was always a LSU party. And then from the LSU party, I'd figure out what places could I go sit outside of to hear live music that night, that Saturday night.
Right.
So,
yeah, you got to know the spots. Yeah.
yeah, and it directly related one and one with another.
Wow. Yeah. Welcome, guys, to the Gulf Coast Music Podcast. Today's new wave, Zachary McLain, and representing the Novo Soul.
Yeah,
Novo Soul.
Nouveau. So that was a
Mess up.
play. So being a big history fan, and I love where I'm from, the culture. I was trying to figure out something because we're soulful, but we're also not like super old school soul. Then where we're from, if you mix soul too much with being with Louisiana, it turns into swamp pop. And then also had that blues influence going on. But I was there back in the day. There used to be a term in the early 1900s called the nouveau riche. And what this would have been like the Rockefellers. That's because they were the upstarts that suddenly got rich compared to the old money from before back in the 1700s. And I was thinking about like how do I kind of mix this in. So I just called it nouveau soul, which means the new soul.
Yes.
Something like that. I had this in it.
Got it.
It was also important because
how does the band feel about your historical abilities?
oh, they love it, but I can also get annoying. So if we're like riding somewhere, like, hey, this is where they did this and where they did that. If like they're riding with me,
Right, they're just like
playing somewhere on the road, we're like, cool, man. Let me tell you about what happened last night. I'm like, all right, tell me.
right. Yeah, you're leading into the last song. You're like, before I tell you this song, I got to tell you the meaning behind it. And the band's just like, oh my god. Yeah. But no, I respect it for sure, man. And we were talking a bit before if Zach is a history teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just speak a little bit on balancing being a teacher and pursuing music.
Oh, it started out working. I worked at a tire shop forever, so I always had to be mindful because I had to pay my way through college. So doing that, I was always mindful of how I managed my schedule, and teaching's the same way too. You have to be mindful. But another thing I never thought would affect it so much, being in South Louisiana, whenever I'd play, so whenever I was younger, I was in a Zydeco group. I had a different group whenever I was fresh out of high school. Then I was also with a local country group. So I traveled around the state a good bit. And it made it to where pretty much most of the students that end up in my room, I know something about where they or their family is from. Mm-hmm. And I never thought, and then also the relationship building that goes with playing music, even if it's just a contact or if it's someone that really likes your music and that continues to come out, you have to be able to build relationships with your students. Mm-hmm. Then also the fact no one wants to be bored whenever they're in the classroom. Most people anticipate no one wants to be bored whenever they're at a live show. So whenever you're thinking on that creative, and a lot of people wouldn't say that, but teaching has a lot to do.
Do you find yourself using the same principles that you follow to set up like a good stage presence in your classroom?
It can be a little different because you're setting up a stage presence to everybody to have fun. You're setting up a classroom for everyone to learn. But what's funny is it still feeds that creative itch.
Right.
If that makes sense. Because whenever you're looking at a story or something that you want them to learn, how do you get them to where they feel more involved with it? The same way that you'd want a crowd to be more involved. It's just going to look differently.
Yeah, but you also don't want them to get distracted.
Yeah, same thing. But then every once in a while we'll do what we'll call a brain break. Is a new modern thing that people like to bring up. And I'll do random brain breaks. You might be able to talk. Coffee is our thing down here, especially along the coast. Everybody loves some good coffee. But really, for the past 40 years, it comes out heavy sometimes. Yeah. But it's not till like Starbucks, from what I'm understanding, and then community starts stressing out that everyone has, you can get good coffee anywhere. That wasn't a thing everybody tells me till like the late 70s, early 80s. So like, you talk with your parents or your grandparents. My grandparents said anytime my grandpa had to pass through Texas, like if he went anywhere further past Lake Charles, they always pack community coffee in the thing. Like, it was not a thing. They weren't on the hotel
I
coffee.
I think you're right about that. Like, anytime we go on trips, there's community coffee in the bags. And I just never thought twice about it.
Yeah, it's
But
just
now I drink.
there's all these like little things, and so I have a passion for history the same way I have a
All right. Yeah,
same way I have a
real fun.
passion for music, man. I love hearing where people come from, and where they do feed each other is I love telling stories
Right.
and being able to do that in a way that holds someone's attention is nothing. But you also get this connection and this strong sense of identity from knowing the story behind something.
Yeah.
And I think what I love about what you're doing here, connecting the Gulf Coast, because there's so many stories behind the Gulf Coast, stretching from Beaumont to Biloxi,
Yeah.
all the way to Pensacola,
Yeah.
where we have a lot in common. I may just ride along the interstate for 3 hours straight and don't get off at 12, and you're going to see more French names than you are anything else.
Yeah.
Like, where does that come in to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't let the dogs out. The City of Mobile Animal Shelter has many loving pets ready for a nice home. Whether you're looking for a dog like Snoop or a cat like Doja, the City of Mobile Animal Shelter is where you can find your next friendly companion. They're located at 855 Owen Street, and you can stop by anytime between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We all need a little bow wow in our lives. Call 251-208-2800 because the City of Mobile Animal Shelter has you covered. That's 251-208-2800. Roof.
Tell me about the Hammond music scene specifically. I saw you performed at the Planet in the Park.
Planet in the Park, and then we also did. We might have to cancel this because if they see this again, what's the name of that thing that we did? Oh, Hot August Stroll.
I'm glad
Which
you
is something that
remembered.
something that the city puts on, and that's really cool. So Hammond to me, I went to. So first of all, college was a whole experience for me. So I took
good.
4 years just to get my associates, and then another 3 after that. But I paid out of pocket,
Keep talking.
so I had the time to experience everything that went with it. And so Hammond was really welcoming, especially after the shutdown whenever I was getting back into playing music because I took a little bit of a break there. But afterwards, all the local breweries would let you in, and they almost, as long as you were entertaining, they'd let you do kind of what you wanted. So you didn't have a booking agent that was looking for a certain genre, and you didn't have a manager of the place that wanted this to be a country bar or we want this to be a classic hits.
It was just like they were just taking people.
If it's good music and people are enjoying it, come
Yeah.
do it. So they'd let me do it. I'd go and just meet my guitar, and I could do Garth Brooks for one song and then do Bob Seger behind another. And if I wanted to do Otis Redding, they didn't question it. And if I was like, hey, I want to do Harry Styles, no one ever said anything. And this, I still love doing Harry Styles is really good in my opinion.
As it was, man.
Yeah, and as it is. And then, that was good. Hold on, let me recover. So, but the band scene is kind of hard to get out, and then, not hard. The festival scene, some of them they'll get a lot of different cover stuff. And what Alec Griffith, who's the guy who puts the whole Planet in the Park organization together, I think that might be the name of him, but he also started reaching out to different bars. So, like for my birthday, we played at a spot called Benny's, which is the fun. You come as you are. You'll get people from all walks of life, of all ages of life, in Benny's in Hammond. And he set up the show for that, which was that. But he, it's not just about the music. So he gets local vendors. He'll get this one. I can't remember this girl's name. I have to. I'll send it to you, and we can link it in the comments. But she does just Hammond-based T-shirt apparel. And it's like how that's her side business. She doesn't have a different job while she's in college. So you get all these local vendors that it can be homemade art, homemade jewelry,
Nice, man.
and then also homemade food trucks, which is really the fun part for me. And talking about coffee, Hammond has some fun homemade coffee.
Yeah.
Some of the favorite cafes that they have out there is going to be up in there.
Yeah, man.
Then another thing that I used to do, they have I'm biased, but one of my favorite Saturday morning farmers markets. And what I mean, they're right next to the railroad track. They have a whole courtyard area type setup, but it's longer. So I would set up, and they pay me to play like 2 hours. And they had this guy that had the best gumbo in the world.
Oh,
but I would shout out to him so much to where he just started giving it to me for free. Then I also knew one of the...
That's how you do it right there.
one of the people that would, they like homemade bread makers. So you'd get sourdough bread made. And then people overlook this. So Hammond's right along I-12, but Tangipahoa, if you go any further south or north, becomes very rural. That's why the Strawberry Festival was in Ponchatoula, which is right across the
Dude.
interstate and everything. And you can get so much fresh produce out there to where it's like you're going to a fruit stand, and not just fresh produce, like meat.
Yeah.
Like you'll get like homemade beef or whatever it is, and it's stuff that they killed and cut up in the past 2 days. And I like to grill. That's my thing. So I would take the gig, and they'd be like, "We'll pay you this much," and I'm like, "I'm gonna spend more than that," but yeah, I'll take it.
Do you ever like grill at the events that you're playing gigs at?
I never have, but that would be a goal. I have been at the studio and grill before. That's the thing.
How's that possible?
So if we're doing, let's say, drum tracks for all of one day, we'll fire up the grill while we're getting the sound check going, get it all
Dog.
burning for an hour, put it down to where it's low and slow, 200. You know, the way it ain't going to burn, it's just going to soak up the smoke flavor. Throw that on there, do about 45 minutes of tracking, go check it.
That's how you keep everybody happy.
Yeah, and then it keeps you from leaving the studio. Everyone's effective. It don't. You got to make it feel like you're not working, but
Right,
also
right.
keep that happy vibes.
Oh man,
They
I'm
do
sure
that
you
good
get your
job.
best music when you get some soul
Good food, good coffee.
Yeah.
Beignets. They're sound funny. If I ever wake up early enough and we're going in the studio, I'll make a run up in the Baton Rouge. Coffee Call. If y'all listening, anybody's going to Baton Rouge, Coffee Call's the spot for beignets. That, unless you want to go downtown, there's a place called the Vintage.
Got it.
But-
Well, what is it like growing up in Baton Rouge?
Oh man, at the time, well, I needed to play. My dad played music too,
Yeah.
so I remember my dad would get off work, and I guess it'd be so my mom was sick. She had Crohn's disease. So my dad would do everything he could to make ends meet, and playing music was his thing. But my dad also worked like 70 hours a week
Oh
in
my
a
God.
diesel shop.
Oh,
So whenever he'd get off shower and get ready to go play, he had me trained to throw. My dad drove a little Ford Ranger truck, and he had me trained on how to put his amps and everything next to like the spare tire to where when it moved while I was going down the road. And so while he was showering, I'd load everything up for him.
Yeah.
And they'd let me stay up late. Some people say that's bad parenting. I think it was a fun childhood. But besides that, we always have every year's the Baton Rouge Blues Fest.
yeah.
And they really will get a good mix of the local cats with some of your underground international cats
Yeah.
with like your full name stuff. So I've seen Dr. John,
Oh, nice.
Delbert McClinton, Buddy Guy. Who else can I think of here? There's a new guy named D.K. Harrell.
Hey, James Booker.
I think James Booker may have been there once, but I wasn't sure. And then a lot of talking about me playing in a Zydeco band. I'd heard Zydeco live, and maybe I'd heard like Wayne Toops, but Wayne Toops isn't exactly Zydeco. I was 16 or 17, and I remember this distinctly because it rained. So they moved the entire outside festival inside this arena that we have
Yeah.
in downtown Baton Rouge, and everything was echoing. But what's funny is they used to have two different stages, and like one was in one smaller part, and then you go to this other one. What changed is they had two different stages, and it was like a little bit bigger than, I don't know, a football arena. So you could see each other, and what it was everybody would just turn their chairs to look at the different stages every time they were getting ready to swap the sets.
Oh yeah.
But I heard Chubby Carrier
I
live.
bet that was a cool experience though. Just being
Yeah, we're walking back and forth in between.
Yeah.
I heard Chubby Carrier live, and it changed the way I thought about Zydeco, because that's where I saw like the heavy blues influence. There's also been a few other people. There's a dude named Troy Turner, who
Yeah.
I think he's in Canada now. He's at, but all those live festivals that I got to see, because my mom was very adamant my dad was not going to have me in a bar. My dad was adamant that I was going to know how musicians carried themselves on stage. And so seeing Delbert McClinton, I remember one thing that stuck out. It was getting late on a Sunday, and we were getting ready, sun setting. My dad says, "You got school in the morning. Come on, let's start heading back." And Dad hears one song, and he says, "Hold on, wait, we need to finish this." But whenever he looks at the stage, Delbert McClinton's walking around, and he's talking to everybody, like whispering in their ear. And my dad leans over, and he says, "Do you know what he's doing?" And I said, "No." And I think it may have been like 5th or 6th grade. Of course, I didn't know what he's doing. He says, he's telling them what song that they're going to go next because they don't actually run off a set list. And once I got older, it got to be where I could tell where Taylor Naud, a guy I played bass for a long time, I could kind of guess what we were going to do next based off of the licks that he was playing. Like whenever we'd end the song, down, and he's doing this little chicken picking thing. By what key he was going to lean into, that's where I could kind of guess where it'd go. Taylor never ever uses a set. Like I think maybe once we played the Texas Club when he had a set list. that he
So
wanted to do.
so you're letting the bass player dictate your set list.
Well, not me. I was listening to Taylor, but it got to where
okay,
you
got
could
it.
just playing live. You got to where you could guess what people would go.
Wow.
Yeah, and now I guess we kind of do the same thing too.
Right.
It could do the same thing in my group. Now we do for festivals. Everyone uses set lists.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of the groups where I came up with that I would see that. Now that's just set list. Being in Baton Rouge, we got to the blues, and I can't overstate that. Baton Rouge is heavy with country and blues.
Yeah.
A little bit of jazz is in there too that bleeds from New Orleans.
So, like in your group, would y'all like who's dictating the sets?
Oh, it's me.
Yeah.
It's definitely me, and it can lean down to where, like, if someone's taking a solo, and I know exactly what I'll do the same thing Delbert did, and I'll lean over to the bass player and tell him what's next. Or
As the solo's going.
yeah, or if we
And the
let's
guy-
say I see the bar's packed or wherever we're playing is packed. I'll say, all right, for the first 20 minutes, I don't want to stop. So we'll do this one, and that one, and we're going to do them in these keys. And I'll just lean over and remind each other. Or I'll lean over to the drum and say, hey, we're doing this again. Give me a beat while there's still noise going on.
That's incredible that y'all can what's it called when you're able to switch the song's keys?
Medley.
Medley.
Maybe you can medley them together. Now, it's not. Sometimes it's not as seamless as I like, but it usually has to do if we've done them enough.
Right.
We have an idea how we're going to do each of them,
Yeah.
or we can imitate what bit, and it has a lot to do with music's a conversation. It's a human conversation. People do have time, or
Yeah, 2 minutes. Let's go. Music's a
in 2 minutes.
conversation.
Music is commonly viewed as a conversation. So, the same way where if you're speaking with someone face to face like this, the way you say something makes them take something a certain way, or they'll lead the conversation to a certain direction. And when you're talking with someone that you've talked with a lot before, you know what words, what phrases they will connect with, what slang they might be used to understand what you're trying to say. Because it's the same way with speaking. If you think about speaking, it's kind of bizarre if you think about it, because you're literally like, what noises do I make with my mouth to make you understand what I'm picturing in my head? And music is, we can have all these great opinions on how it does, but whenever it comes down to it, we're literally making noise.
Right.
And so whenever you're making noise with a group of people, it's what noises do you make to make them react the way that you want them to react to you, and to come up with the sound of where you as a group have, where y'all want it to be.
Wow.
Where y'all can communicate with whoever's in front of you to get that emotion out.
That's great.
I think that's the best way I can explain it.
Music feeds the soul, but food feeds the future. Right here on the Gulf Coast, thousands of families don't know where their next meal is coming from. Feeding the Gulf Coast is changing that tune one meal at a time. Imagine this. For every $1, you can provide up to 5 meals. That's like turning a quiet solo into a full-blown jam session of hope for someone in need. Let's turn the volume up on kindness and down on hunger. Visit feedingthegulfcoast.org to donate today, because together we can make sure no one goes hungry on or off the stage. Feeding the Gulf Coast, because every community deserves an encore.
So tell me about Some Other Page. We've got, I was listening to it a bunch today. Round and Round and Two for the Money are great opening songs.
Mm-hmm.
But Lady and the Tramp just gets me, man. It's a great song as well.
Really?
Yeah. And also the live song as well. But the way Lady and the Tramp, I just love the hook, how you'll say certain parts and then just let the instrumental ride, and then, punctuates really well.
So which one you want me to start with? Oh, I guess we could. Which one's first?
I guess kind of just generally talk about your writing process and the theme behind that.
So each song for me can be very different, and I do this term. There's a friend of mine named Peyton Favu who's really popular, I would say, in the North Shore, kind of New Orleans area. But he and I were talking. I said, it's like they come to me. Late in the Tramp, I was one I wrote whenever I was 18. You're going to laugh. The opening scene says, baby, let's take a ride to the city in a big Cadillac. I was on my way to college, and I saw this vintage, the old Cadillacs with the fenders?
Yeah.
I saw one of those, and I always loved those cars, and I was like, I want to write a song with that in it. But also, a few of the verses, I guess my mother had passed away a few months before this, and I explore a lot of different themes whenever I write. And so they do write themselves, but also get an idea and hold on to that latch. But the music side can be a separate thing from the lyrical side as well. So musically, can pull from Late in the Tramp definitely is pulling off of Bruce Springsteen, and a little bit of Bob Dylan. Springsteen is one of the, talking about parents' influence. Dad had a Springsteen CD. What's funny, Dad always tells the story because I didn't know what numbers were, but I could recognize what they were. I was an itty bitty kid, and he had a stereo. Yeah. And anytime he would get up to leave the living room, I would change it back to whatever song. I was like, I guess I knew if I did this thing, it would come on with the sound that I liked. But
how emotional were y'all when Springsteen did Post Katrina at Jazz Fest?
That was one. That didn't
My
one.
city, oh,
Yeah, so My City of Ruins, I never actually sent. If you look up there's a live video of him. I want to say it's on one of the late night shows or whatnot, but he's in front of the piano with just him and a harmonica. But this was what Dad had. It was that album actually. Now that I'm thinking, I can't. The Rising. That's the name.
The Rising.
Yeah. Dad bought that album after the 9/11 shutdown.
Yeah.
And that's what that's really about. And my dad would listen to it on repeat. And I remember Dad liking Bruce Springsteen, but whenever I got to be older as a middle schooler, I got really interested in Born to Run for some reason. And I think it's because
I've got that on vinyl.
I got that on vinyl as well. It's worn out. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But
That sounds, it's good.
but there's the picture of him and Clarence Clemens whenever he's young, which is funny because I've never seen Bruce Springsteen as a young man. And I got liking the stories. I love looking at the stories of all these people that I look up to. And there was something, I was always the weird kid in school. And I remember reading that he felt so uncomfortable at his high school that he just didn't go to the graduation. He earned all his credits, got the diploma, but when it came to his graduation day, he left. And in his autobiography, he says, like, his parents invite all the family over. There's supposed to be a dinner, and he sneaks out at 6 in the morning before the sun rises and hangs out in the hip neighborhood in New York City. So, like, he took a train across from Jersey, and then after 4 o'clock, whenever he knew it was late enough to where when he called his dad to come home by telephone. But it was something about that it was something about that kind of I related with. But he also...
Damn, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Just that isolation.
And he also has this way, and a lot of it, he could write normal stories. And how do I say this? So, like, My City of Ruins it's like a normal dad. And a lot of the songs on that album to me sound like they're coming out of a neighborhood around New Jersey. And Lady and the Tramp, I was trying to write a story because it's about my parents, part it's also about my sister and my brother-in-law, and there's a little bit of influence on, because what I'm trying to channel here, I realize I'm talking in circles.
No, you're good.
I try to often write about, because it's getting forgotten a lot in modern music, is the people who are trying to make the crossover between lower class and middle class. And my parents were definitely that. My parents are from Avals Parish, Louisiana, and so they were both in the military. And they moved to Baton Rouge, which Baton Rouge is not necessarily a large city, by American standards, but compared to where my family's from, it's very, very big.
Yeah.
And the job opportunities were bigger. The schools would have been better. So that had a big pull for them. So that strain is kind of what... So nothing lasts forever, so nothing just what will be. That kind of like you have one shot.
Right.
Have faith in something for a bit. So I try to channel that a good bit whenever I write. And my sister and my brother-in-law, I guess you could kind of... They're the last of that old school... high school sweethearts sticking together, doing what they can, do everything that's right. And past few years, people don't want to necessarily bring that up when they're in art about, sometimes it's hard just to make ends meet. And it doesn't matter where you come from, and I feel like that's not necessarily addressed. So I like to try to voice that a lot. And in a way that's not, angry. You can hear that, you hear it a lot, but I think there's a lot of voices that sound just frustration. And I identify with the frustration. There's a few of the songs that have that as well. But with Lady and the Tramp, I think I was, at the time, with mourning my mother, with this thought of the girl that I was dating, whatever, at the time, and seeing what my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and being able to go to college was a real big moment for me, for a family moment, because I was the first one in our group. So I think it might be a little bit of thankfulness, gratitude that comes out in that one. Two for the Money is
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Two for the Money is a whole different flip. So while I was in college, to pay for it, I worked in a tire shop for the longest.
So Lady and the Tramp is a song about lower class to middle class.
Yeah.
And how is that in the wording then? Like when you say, I'd like to be the Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah, I don't mind being the Lady and the Tramp. So and that's really tied, I guess, feeling the relationship between, say you're looking at what's the famous English book? Or really all the like love stories. So what's the I guess one of being you were young. What's the one I had Rachel McAdams and then Ryan Gosling? I'm gonna have to think of. No, it's like to the point where it's almost cliche if I think of the story. But there's a lot of love stories that came up with this, and it's gonna make me sound cliche. I'm terrible. The Notebook. The girl is from a more well-to-do means. And
okay, got it.
For a guy, but they're gonna work hard through it. That phrase is there. The Lady and the Tramp. That's where that really identifies me. Or like taking a ride to the city. That's literally meaning let's try something different. than what we know. And I guess I never really explicitly said that in the lyrics. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably have a habit with doing that if you listen to where this interview's going.
But yeah, I mean, now that you're explaining it, I like it. Yeah, it makes more sense. Yeah. So yeah, 2 for the money.
2 for the money. I had the lick, the da 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 da, and I'd been listening to early James Brown, but also I keep forgetting the names of some of the guys that I listen to. Oh, Bobby Blue Bland, and like the clean guitar, the da 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 da. I always loved the sound of a horn section. And I was trying to come with something. And someone tells me it sounds like I wrote country lyrics with something different, but it's really about working in the tile shop while I was in college. There is a little bit of a culture that goes on with being blue collar, period. And I participated in it, and I was also around people, and I wanted to write that was about my friends who would like get off, and I was like, hey, you want to go do this or that? And they're like, let me stop and get something to drink at the gas station. They weren't talking about Coke or water or where they go get sales. And people want to go to Walmart, they'd stop at the gas station because you were so worn out from working, and that's absolutely what it's about. Then I only had that first verse for like 6 months. I was like, man, I need to come with something different, but it needs to be something I recognize with. So I think the second verse is the one where I start talking about my clothes. And we would all wait till we got sales, or we always loved the vintage look of thing.
Yeah.
And we would never, or I remember I had a pair of Converse that have a hole in them.
People get it for half off and call it vintage.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was, and that's what it's about. Or like the stains mixed in your shirt, and that's completely what that's about. And then I had that for like a year, and I couldn't figure out what was next. And a friend of mine came into town to Baton Rouge, and me and another friend went meet him downtown, and we were letting him, enjoy Baton Rouge nightlife. And we woke up the next day and we were like, is the price all that worth it? So the last verse where it's talking about, throwing the ball made a smile so you'd get a free drink, that actually really is about a friend of mine who worked at Walk-Ons. And I got to know her on first name basis. And so I would get like my appetizer for free whenever I got off work because she just wanted to charge me for it. So
that's sweet, man.
That's absolutely what that. So that was just a fun jam song where I was like, let's mix it with Tower of Power with a little bit of cayenne pepper in there.
Love it.
Yeah, fun stuff.
In Mobile, we don't talk about change, we work for it. At Dexter's Boxing Gym, this is where confidence is built, punch by punch. No gimmicks, no excuses, just real training for real people. This January, we're offering a new membership plan designed to help you stay strong and stay consistent. New year, new me. Mobile's home for boxing, Dexter's.
His thing at Jazz Fest.
Oh, you never watched the video of him breaking down the My City of Ruin, and like everybody in the crowd is like crying, and
I need to go see that then. There's a few things that come. He has a knack whenever he plays loud to where the emotions come out. He also has there's a song. It's actually a cover that comes out after Bruce Springsteen is already Bruce Springsteen, but like all the fans know, but people don't realize it's a cover. It's called Trapped. And it's a love song, which if you listen to him, he doesn't write a lot of love songs. Like you'll get something like My City of Ruins, which is talking about
Thunder Road.
Thunder Road, but that's whenever he's young. As
Right.
it gets and Thunder Road is definitely a love song, but it's also like Lady in the Tramp, which talked about, hey, we got a chance, let's make a break for it.
Yeah.
And then My City of Ruins is a love song in a way, but it's also about grief or like how to handle what your community isn't there anymore. And I think what I like about him as a songwriter is you could do that with him there. And then I guess you were asking about my writing process. I was obsessed with Ernest Hemingway in high school. I've never finished a Hemingway book, and you're gonna laugh. I knew you'd laugh at that. But his quote, he had a way of saying a story with this much here that can make. I think there's a legend. I'm not even sure if this is an accurate quote from him, but there's a story I heard once where he said, "I can tell you a sad story in less than 5 words or less than 10 words. Baby shoes for sale, brand new, never used."
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, if you think about it for a second, it's a wild story.
Say it one more time.
Baby shoes for sale, brand new, never used. Which is like, someone selling them, there's an ad in a newspaper that says a lot going in there. But also, I would
Can you break that down?
say if you're getting ready you're expecting a child.
Yeah.
and you can insert as much as you wanted here. This is very much maybe it's a miscarriage.
Yeah, and then
Maybe
you gotta get rid of the
it,
shoes.
and then maybe it's more than a miscarriage. Maybe the woman dies during childbirth and the person doesn't survive.
Yeah, I'm really grieved now.
Yeah, it doesn't get there. And then to add to it, now what else could go wrong? You have to pay the medical bills. Added to it, just throw that a modern perspective. So now you
Yeah.
need to sell these babies.
A lot goes into 10 words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think about that and but also Charles Dickens. I liked a lot of film. Outright, this sounds funny. I listened to a lot of film actors. Matthew McConaughey's autobiography, Al Pacino, and then also I have Bruce Springsteen, naturally, Eric Clapton too. His autobiography where he's talking about just their life story. And the way that they have to put words around their lives is always interesting to me. Or just hearing what they were trying to convey in certain parts.
Yeah.
You can do it with music too. And Springsteen would talk about where he was pulling lyrics from. Eric Clapton, something that I found cool about him. So now there's definitely that influence on my playing. But my dad gave me the Eric Clapton autobiography when I was in like 6th grade, I want to say. But I would look up every other musician that he would name. And so I was listening to Jimi Hendrix, the Allman Brothers, Delaney and Bonnie, then also Bob Marley. You could say I got introduced to him through Eric Clapton. I never listened to the Eric Clapton covers of Bob Marley stuff till I was much older. But I listened straight up to Bob Marley. And Phil Collins, to name another one. John Mayer, Stevie Ray Vaughan, to Tedeschi Trucks bands. All these people that Eric Clapton would put himself around. I looked him up before I ever paid a whole lot of attention to Eric Clapton. I was obsessed with Cream. That's when my dad gave me that book.
Yeah. Man, I somehow just thought about this, like kind of comparing musicians like they were athletes, but like who had more of an impact between Bruce Springsteen and Bob Marley to his like
To me? Or just...
to like their hometown and like because Bruce Springsteen was like known for carrying America throughout the latter half of the 1900s and
Yeah.
I mean like last quarter of the 1900s and into the 2000s, and then Bob Marley similar structure.
Ooh, man. See, now the historian wants me to kick in because Bob Marley had like the tension politically, and so did Springsteen. But that's so hard to answer because they're so different in each. But each of them, what you have is they had, and this is actually in a Springsteen interview I watched with him where he said he tried to never get so far away from his base. Because he said whenever you were in the bars, it was so easy to write because you take a break and you were going to talk with everybody. Right. So the stories you were taking in were firsthand. So, but he said as you get more and more popular, you're meeting these random people outside, or you like adjusting to fame.
Right.
It's really weird. Bob Marley also did that in a way. So there's some interviews I was watching about him where they, can't remember this woman's name, but they were talking about whenever he finally gets a little bit of money, he buys a nice house in Uptown that's in a gated community in what's the big city in Jamaica? I ain't gonna remember that one in time, but it goes there and someone is visiting. Oh, so you moving Uptown? He goes, yeah, I'm bringing downtown with me. He was sure to correct him. And what I found so fascinating about him, Springsteen remembered his mom cooking, and she would say, "Go turn that song up," and he'd turn it up, and that's how we learned to dance. There's stories, and I found this real fascinating with a lot of your Jamaican artists from there. They were listening to the same stuff Springsteen was in the 60s and 50s. It was the Motown records, but the thing is, you could catch the Florida stations in certain parts of the island.
Yeah.
So there's stories of them. If you listen to Bob Marley's early records, it sounds a lot like almost Stax record. They're trying to do the harmonies. It's the gospel folk mixed with pop music. But it's because, and the way that they would rehearse, because you couldn't afford vinyl because that's expensive, they would all sit like in the back of an alleyway, and they had this one song, and that's back whenever radio stations do stuff on like hour, 2-hour rotations. So they'd mark out on rotation whenever it would come and say they'd be sitting, waiting, listening till it would come on the radio for them to catch this American pop song from Florida.
Wow.
So they hear, and the amount of effort, but also the love that goes with it. Or we also have the community that had to feed these people like this.
Yeah.
Is insane. And I think neither one of them forget that if you look at what they do. Because Bob Marley moves to England, but then he still goes back. He still writes about what's going on in Jamaica. He still writes about the strife that they feel. And Springsteen...
Man, you listen to one song like that in an alleyway, it has more impact than listening to like 1,000 songs on Spotify. You know?
Yeah, and I think Well, I think there was a post, and everyone shares memes, and I guess it creates a little bit of empathy with each other. But we talk about, there was one that shared that said everyone's yearning for a music industry that doesn't exist anymore. And I guess I certainly do identify, because, the stories of Eric Clapton being flown to New York and sitting down with these people that he's never met before, or the old blues guys, and it's like some guy in a hotel wants you to sing into a megaphone from a corner, and it becomes Robert Johnson, becomes one of the most influential blues records ever. Or Louis Armstrong, who back then they can't control volume. He plays so loud to where the engineer opens the door to the sound booth and says, "Go stand in the hallway,"
Right.
because he just has to play over the band. No, that's true. Or that's the story that goes with it. But with some of the embellished stories, there's got to be something back there that made him say that. What it all kind of leads to, on that influence that goes, I want to be able to know all those different stories without Spotify. Because we talk about all the influence, and it's so hard for me to pinpoint one, because this is probably the first time I ever talked so much about Springsteen influencing me. Because the stuff that, like Round and Round, is definitely influenced by Harry Styles and the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
But I want to have all this. I want to know the Louis Armstrong story. I love Louis Armstrong is one of my favorite instrumentalists, period. I want to know that much probably about Robert Johnson, because I had so much access just in my phone. And I have memories if I couldn't sleep, and I still do this to this day. I might be a teacher, but when it comes to my sleep schedule, it's not necessarily what I would call store hours. So every once in a while, I'll have a good week where I'm like going to bed at 8 and waking up at 4. Then every once in a while, I'll have a week to where I'm like taking a nap, waking up at 4, and then going back to sleep at 11. But I remember I would pace with my earbuds, just sitting at, to the point that I would wear earbuds out. Like I'd have to buy one every like 3 or 4 months. But I would just listen as much as I could. And it would be the Police, but then also the Lumineers, hands down, one of the biggest lyrically influences. But they also pull from the Bob Dylan and Springsteen bit. I can't overlook the Red Hot Chili Peppers either. I was obsessed with Jimi Hendrix and then Nirvana and then also Stevie Ray Vaughan when I was a middle schooler. And whenever you take all that and throw it into one, it's kind of close.
I just love your emphasis on history, throughout all matters, but also your ability to like retell history. Like it's really cool.
It leads a lot, because whenever you listen to any record, you can hear so many influences. And one thing I didn't rap. Like a lot of people, and when it comes to people who call themselves a songwriter, they have a mixed feeling about rap. But Lil Wayne especially, and especially you'll laugh, but his stuff
No, I'm
mixed.
saying Lil Wayne is the greatest, like one of the greatest songwriters.
Yeah, one of the
time.
ones, and especially, do you remember the song "Mirrors" with Bruno Mars?
Yeah, of course.
So naturally, if I love old James Brown, Bruno Mars was the poop whenever we were in high school. Like we would, to the point to where our band director's like, "Y'all need to learn another song. Like I'm tired of hearing y'all play this."
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't even sing it. We would just play the rhythm section. Me and a drummer friend, I played bass in a jazz band. But that mix, it was very emotional sounding, and that's just Wayne. And then after that, you have a lot of these people that came out. I was obsessed with Bryce Vine for forever, Kid Cudi, especially in high school, and then Mac Miller had a way of writing songs, and this is something that I think a little bit of the pop stuff. What's the song? I don't know for sure. Hey Ya by Outkast.
Yeah.
The lyrics of that are not happy, but that's one of the songs. If you put it on put that on at a wedding,
You can't.
everyone starts dancing.
You can't help it. It's one of the greats.
And I never thought to look at that. I remember I was reading a critique. You remember the song "Lights" by Ellie Goulding?
Yeah.
All right. A critique of that came out my freshman year of high school, or right before it. And I remember being at a Circle K, and a friend of mine was getting in his car with the door wide open. And it was blaring that song. I remember thinking it was cool. And for some reason I looked at it because I couldn't figure out what it was about. Because it's a pop song, but it's got this tense music behind it. And then the wording behind it is absolutely about someone going through something.
Wow.
And I remember trying to mix that in with some of my lyrical stuff, or where it would, or like how would you describe it that, and that gets overlooked a lot. But also had that influence of breaking away or the sampling.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, I love the old stuff, but to be honest, there's a Fergie song that samples a Little Richard song, and I knew the Fergie song before that. There's lots of samplings that got mixed in to where I wanted to have known it. Or Gold Digger by Kanye West and everybody.
Right.
I knew that. I didn't even realize that was from I Got a Woman by Ray Charles. I love Ray Charles, but and what's funny is I knew both songs, and I never made the connection that they were pulling from that verse of the Ray Charles song until I was probably like 17, 18.
You got to check the index in the history books.
Yeah. Yeah.
At Roosters, we are committed to using quality, locally sourced ingredients as often as possible. That's why we partnered with Bayou Core Farms to take their heirloom corn, locally grown in Bon Secours, and use it to create the corn flour for our new always fresh corn tortillas. Our other partner, Tortilleria E&H in Daphne, receives the Bayou Core corn flour and uses it to make the tortillas. The heirloom corn tortillas then get delivered to Roosters, where they are used to make our signature tacos. The end result is freshness and flavor you can't get anywhere else. Roosters, for the love of food.
What's the future plans for you?
Oh, so that one there, I need to figure out how I want to cut it. I got a few other songs. Really, just a lot in the past 3 months they're coming. When it comes to them writing themselves, I'll get a verse and a half, and then I'll just let it sit. And what I do goes back to cooking. It goes back to the culture thing, and I call it marinating. Yeah. So if you like the barbecue and everything, a lot of people, if you're doing some pork ribs, you let the season from the day before.
Right.
Some people will even do that if you're frying chicken.
I'll let my beans soak for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. And that's the way he said, my daddy, you get along with my old man. Crock pot, salt water. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But I do the same thing with that. And a lot of times I'll get even a chord progression, and I'll think to myself, well, I don't know what set of words that was with it yet. And I'll tell my different friends, I was like, I've got this. I'm not sure where it wants to go. I know it's going to sound something like, and I hear a melody in it, but I'm not sure what it wants to say.
Yeah.
And there is a little bit of work that goes in. And another thing, I talk about playing the coast. And while, like, dude, being on the road, you listen to a lot of music, a lot of podcasts, and I would just randomly hear these random lines. And what was really cool is the podcast where it could be an interview or an autobiography, and they'll make this random quote, or someone will talk about the way that they grew up. Or it could even be someone being frustrated with something that's going on right now. Or like, how do we really get through this if we don't even want to see the door forward? And I remember I heard that line, and I can't tell you where I heard it, but I remember it popped up in my head the other day.
Yeah.
And then they're pretending to burn is just embers and smoke that in the song there. That I put down, I was like, nothing can burn if it's just embers and smoke, or it's over if it's embers and smoke. So I just took that and chopped it up. But I have a lot of songs that have been, there's probably like a solid 6 or 7 that are
It's
middle school.
Too much middle school.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Well, my
It's
comeback.
crazy. You immediately thought of that.
Yeah, well, my students doing that too. I started doing the past few days. There's a Grinch video where they're like 6, 7. The Grinch goes 8, 9, and it's hilarious. But it frustrates my students.
That's good.
Hello, yeah,
That's good. We're winning the battle.
it's your way to kind of get back at them. But people, I'll say this when it comes to teaching. Man, everyone says the next generation. You always hear people say the next generation. I have a lot of people that are in my rosters right now that I'll see whenever I get back from Christmas break or whatever. There's good people that are growing up, and they might be different, just like whatever generation, I guess, that comes with it here. Where I like talking about the Bob Marley is one. Bruce Springsteen's certainly one that ties together. But Motown, Marvin Gaye, that album, Inner City Blues or What's Going On, that album has a tense, and that's from the 60s. Then the 80s had their own tension that came with it. And while every generation before them said that the next generation is going to have it rough. But one of the things I find really inspiring is this group that's coming up, and I think any generation that is coming up, they have an idea on what they think is right or wrong.
They're smart, man.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily compromise on it. And they will listen, and they're like very open-minded and reasonable. And being in a room with babies, and to me they're babies, and that's when I realized I was really definitely past that 25 mark. Is whenever someone that was like 21, I thought they were in high school, and I was like, what? It's like, you go out in a restaurant and someone's around, I'm like, is this person old enough to work here legally?
Right.
What's kind of going on here? But they are always excited for something new. And I remember I have a song that I want to finish about that. There's a strong thing whenever it comes to, and I think Bruce Springsteen has a layer. If you listen to his Darkness on the Edge of Town album, I'm pretty sure. Some guys give up on living, start dying little by little, piece by piece.
Right.
And I was always determined not to do that.
Yeah.
And that definitely, like, because my dad's dad was like that too, to where, like, he's one of the only old men till he passed away. That was a wild old man. Like, ain't too many people I could say that were wild. He was wild.
What was the wildest thing you did?
Oh man, I can't say that in public. But man, his opinions, the way he would blunt stuff out. He would let you know it if he thought you were right or wrong, and he's listening to that. And he says, "You need to get rid of that part on that recording, boy. That thing's wrong." He said that's just completely wrong. Or then something else. My grandpa would wear boots. Let's see, that camera's on me right there. I can't see. My grandpa would get boots that were bright red, ostrich skin, all the way up to here. Or like bright white. Yeah, he was a whole character. But he also came from that, we talked about the old music industry, where I got to hear his stories to where like they're calling him and putting him on a flight as a one-hit wonder because he came back and made like a legend for himself in southern Louisiana and reaching out to Texas. And that was like he was a working guy. That was, my dad said that was their job. They played like 5 days a week or like at least 4 days a week in the bars, and he paid his musicians a salary. He booked all of it, and then he was on like an independent label back in the day. But he also had the stories of having to go do like local TV shows because apparently that was a thing. That's not so much now. A local TV show means just your city. Mm-hmm. Where back in the day, a regional TV show would have meant like a broader area, and then also you would have regional radio stations that would reach further too, and you could be an independent artist because the independent record label in that independent area would contract out to the independent radio stations around you, and it wouldn't be just like one or two. And it really made it sing because there's a documentary on Stax on HBO Max, if you want, and that's exactly what they did. So I was trying to figure out where Otis Redding, Sam and Dave, or they got I can't remember his name, but their promoter agent that they eventually had to try to stretch it out, they knew they needed a song to break for Sam and Dave, and what he did was he thought where all their demographic had moved to throughout the United States, and he called every independent radio station that he could. He got a stack of them, like all the little 45s, because back then you can't just email everybody. Puts it in his car the week before Christmas. And what it was, DJs would just put this thing on back in the day where they played all the Christmas songs. And he says, I'll pay you whatever you want. Just give me a break and play this every hour on Christmas. And every hour, I think it was You Don't Know Like I Don't Know by Sam and Dave, which isn't even like the most popular song nowadays. Yeah. But from Chicago down to Detroit, reaching out to California, he drove all that stretch for like as much areas he could cover for a week. And if you listen to that station, that's what you had on Christmas Day that day. For every hour, you heard this one song from a record company you probably didn't know in Memphis, who had some artists that you probably didn't know if you were from the North or Midwest. Right. But now you did. And now you can't exactly do that. Now it's like whenever they write. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's such a different area. But it also fit into the creativity that comes behind being an independent artist is incredible. So like something like this, if it reaches out to a certain group of people, then that will touch someone else. Or a lot of the artists you were putting on that I was checking, I was like, oh, I've never heard of this person because they play the Gulf Coast, but it's the Alabama to Biloxi stretch. Right. I play the New Orleans to Biloxi stretch. So it's different, but you still get to hear that there. Right. And this is it's a different time. It might not be as profitable as old times were, but I think this is a very exciting time to be an artist right now.
So yeah, what's next?
I'd like to get out a new album within a year or two, or even just a 4-song EP, because it's hard for me to group because I hear so many different sounds, or even like what I just played sounds definitely different from some other page. And I don't want to get grouped into thinking that I'm just one thing. But I'd like to reach out and do a few different festivals, get the group together to where we can do that more often. We've had some good, so we did Hot August Stroll. We did Planet in the Park. They're planning to have us back for that one too. I'd like to reach out to Mobile is one city that I'd like to visit a little bit. And then also go up further north because there's some areas like up in Arkansas. So if you look at your interstate ways, it goes kind of all over the place. And then, of course, this summer, I'm definitely looking forward to being on the Gulf Coast a good bit. Yeah. Get my suntan on.
Let's go. Well, I really appreciate you for coming on the podcast. This was one of my most enjoyable ones, and it was great to hear some history. And, yeah, go catch Zachary McLain and the Nouveau Soul making moves like Bienville and Iberville across the coast.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for having me on, dude. Thank you for what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Welcome to the Gulf Coast. Welcome to the Gulf Coast. Welcome to the Gulf Coast.